Is there anything scarier than not being able to remember your own pain? Emotional amnesia is the invisible wound we carry when our inner child was forced to forget in order to survive. Have you ever wondered why certain emotions seem to have been erased from your memory? Why can't you access feelings that should be there but have simply vanished? Jung discovered that the psyche has protective mechanisms so powerful they can literally erase parts of our emotional experience. When a child lives with a narcissist, they don't just learn to hide. They learn to disappear from themselves, to fragment into such tiny pieces that they can no longer find them. Emotional amnesia isn't just forgetting traumatic events. It's much more subtle and devastating. It's when you lose access to your own emotional reactions, your instincts, your ability to feel fully and authentically. It's when you become a stranger to yourself, walking through life as if observing everything through a foggy pane of glass. But here's the truth few understand. This amnesia leaves signs. Silent traces that your inner child can still send, even lost in the depths of the unconscious. And when you learn to decode these signs, something extraordinary happens. The forgotten pieces of you begin to return. Today you will discover the 5 clearest signs that your inner child suffers from emotional amnesia, caused by narcissism. And more importantly, you will understand that recognizing these signs is the first step to reclaiming the lost fragments of your soul. Because what was forgotten hasn't disappeared. It's just waiting for you to have enough courage to look in the places no one dares to search. In the shadows of your own psyche, where your true essence remains alive, untouched, and ready to be integrated again. But what Jung discovered about the child's dissociation mechanisms completely changes how we understand our own healing. Stop now and be brutally honest with yourself. How many times have you tried to access an emotion about something that happened in your childhood and found only a strange void, as if there were a glass wall between you and your own feelings? How many times has someone asked how you felt about a certain situation from your childhood and you simply answered, "I don't know," or "I can't even imagine," as if that part of you had been switched off, disconnected, erased? Look at your emotional history. Can you access the anger you should have felt when you were humiliated? Can you tap into the sadness you should have experienced when you were emotionally abandoned? Can you feel the fear that should have overwhelmed you when you were repeatedly invalidated? If the answer is no, if there's a void where your most authentic emotional reactions should be, you're looking directly at the traces of emotional amnesia. Your inner child wasn't just wounded. She was forced to disappear from herself to survive the narcissistic chaos around her. As long as you flee from these emotional voids, they continue to unconsciously govern your adult life. As long as you avoid looking at these amnesic places in your psyche, you remain fragmented, incomplete, disconnected from your own essence. Your inner child is trying to show you something crucial. It has left clues, signs, traces of what was lost. And today you will learn to decode these silent messages it has been sending for years, waiting for you to finally have the courage to listen to it. Do you recognize this emotional void? It's because your psyche was programmed to forget as a form of survival. And now you will understand how this mechanism works and how to start reversing its effects. Emotional amnesia is what Jung would call extreme defensive dissociation. It's when the child's psyche, faced with an unbearable emotional reality, literally decides to disconnect from parts of itself to continue functioning. Imagine the child's mind as a palace with many rooms. When they live with a narcissist, certain rooms become so dangerous that they decide to lock them and throw away the key. The problem is that these rooms don't just contain traumatic memories. They also hold their authentic emotional reactions, their self-preservation instincts, their ability to trust their own feelings. The narcissist functions as an emotional invader who constantly distorts the child's reality. They invalidate their perceptions, deny their experiences, minimize their pain. The child, unable to process this constant psychological violence, develops what we might call selective emotional blindness. They learn not to see certain things, not to feel certain emotions, not to trust certain reactions. It's as if they install an internal security system that automatically blocks any emotional content that might be considered dangerous or threatening to their survival. This mechanism is so efficient that the child can literally forget how they feel about events that have just happened. Their psyche learns to erase in real time any emotional experience that might generate conflict or retaliation from the narcissist. The result is a child who walks through life like an emotional sleepwalker, reacting to the world through automatic and unconscious patterns. disconnected from their own internal compass. The first sign of emotional amnesia is the feeling of always watching your life happen in the third person. You feel like a distant observer of your own experiences, especially the most emotionally intense ones. It's as if there's always a pane of glass between you and what you're feeling. When something significant happens, whether positive or negative, you can't fully immerse yourself in the experience. Part of you remains floating above the situation, analyzing, controlling, but never truly present. This is your inner child, maintaining the safe distance it learned to keep from all emotional experiences. The second sign is the inability to access specific emotions about specific past events. You can remember the facts, but the emotions that should accompany those memories simply aren't there. It's as if someone erased only the emotional soundtrack of your story, leaving behind only silent images. You might perfectly remember the day you were humiliated in front of others, but you can't access the shame you should have felt. You might remember being emotionally abandoned, but the sadness that should accompany that memory is completely absent. Your mind kept the data, but erased the feelings. The third sign is the extreme difficulty in identifying what you truly feel in the present moment. When someone asks how you're feeling, you need an abnormally long time to process the question. It's as if you need to translate from a foreign language. You've developed a kind of limited emotional vocabulary, always resorting to the same vague words: fine, bad, tired, stressed. Your inner child learned that having specific and intense emotions was dangerous, so it created an emotional camouflage system that keeps everything in shades of gray. Your emotional reactions have become so automated that you respond to the world through pre-programmed patterns, without ever truly feeling what's happening inside you in the present moment. The fourth sign is the tendency to intellectualize everything that should be felt. You've transformed your mind into an emotional bunker, where all experiences are processed through rational analysis, never through direct feeling. When something painful happens, instead of feeling the pain, you immediately analyze it. Instead of allowing the emotion to flow through you, you dissect it, categorize it, explain it. It's as if you're afraid that feeling directly would be deadly. Your inner child learned that raw emotions were dangerous, so it developed this intellectual filter that processes everything before it reaches your heart. The problem is that emotional life cannot be lived only in the mind. It needs to be felt in the body, in the heart, in the soul. The fifth and most devastating sign is the chronic feeling of inner emptiness, accompanied by the inability to identify what's missing. You feel that something fundamental is absent, but you can't name what it is. It's as if there are holes in your soul that you can feel but can't see. This emptiness isn't depression. It's literally the absence of the parts of you that were dissociated to protect the inner child. These are the pieces of your essence that were locked away in inaccessible rooms of your psyche, and now you miss them without even knowing they exist. You might have success, relationships, achievements, but still carry this persistent feeling that something crucial is missing, as if you're living an incomplete version of yourself, but can't identify which parts were lost along the way. This is your soul signaling that it's time to begin the journey of reclaiming the lost fragments of your inner child. Now that you've recognized the signs, it's time to begin the journey of reconnecting with your amnesic inner child. The healing process isn't about forcing memories to return, but about creating a safe space where your authentic emotions can naturally emerge. The first tool is compassionate dialogue with your inner child. Find a moment of complete privacy and begin a gentle internal conversation. Tell it that you recognize it had to forget to survive, and that now it's safe to start remembering, that you won't judge it or force it to relive traumas, but that you're ready to embrace any feeling it wants to share. The second tool is conscious body observation. Your inner child communicates a lot through physical sensations. Throughout the day, take regular pauses to feel your body. Where is there tension? Where is there emptiness? Where is there numbness? These are emotional maps left by your inner child. The third tool is what Jung called active imagination. Visualize your inner child as it truly was: curious, sensitive, full of life. Imagine yourself going to the locked rooms of your psyche and gently asking if it's ready to open some doors. Don't force it. Just offer your compassionate presence. Allow emotions to emerge without trying to control or analyze them immediately. When you feel a flash of anger, sadness, fear, or any authentic emotion, even if it seems disproportionate or out of context, embrace it. It's your inner child testing if it's safe to feel again. Remember, healing emotional amnesia doesn't happen all at once. It's a gradual process of reconnection, where you gently invite your inner child to return home, to your heart, to your conscious life. You are no longer the defenseless child who needed to forget to survive. You are now the conscious adult who can offer it the safety it always needed to express itself completely. You are the guardian of your own healing. Recognizing these 5 signs was the first step of your individuation journey. You can no longer ignore the emotional voids of your history. You can no longer pretend that you don't feel the absence of the lost pieces of yourself. You have awakened to the truth of your fragmentation, and that means integration has already begun. Your inner child has waited so long for this moment, the moment when you would finally have the courage to look for it in the dark places where it hid, the moment when you would recognize that it didn't disappear, it just learned to become invisible. Now you know that the feeling of always observing your life from the outside is the sign of a child who learned that participating was dangerous, that the absence of specific emotions in your memories is the trace of a psyche that chose to forget to protect the heart, that the difficulty of feeling in the present is the echo of a child who was taught that their emotions were incorrect or inconvenient. You've understood that transforming everything into rational analysis is the survival strategy of someone who learned that feeling directly was deadly, and that the chronic emptiness you carry is literally the absence of the parts of you that were dissociated to maintain peace. Comment on which of these 5 signs touched your soul the most. Share with others who are also on this journey of reclaiming the inner child. Your courage to look at these amnesic places in your psyche can be the mirror that awakens someone still lost in fragmentation. Subscribe to continue this individuation journey, to learn more tools for reconnecting with your authentic essence, to discover how to transform emotional voids into portals of healing. The child you once were is ready to come home, to your heart, to your conscious life, to the complete integration of your true self. The journey of reclaiming your soul is just beginning. Integrate.